Hello and welcome to the show, and welcome to block painting for dummies. So I don't normally do these sorts of things, but I thought it might be quite fun to show you how I get from the little moulded men on the right to the finished article on the left. I certainly could have done with a little bit of guidance when I started this. As it is, I was trying to do it all on my own, learning as I went. Hope some of you find it useful. Here we go. So as with most mouldings, I'll give them a quick scrub and clean up. Take a bit of flash off, which isn't too bad with these figures, but I also snip the bayonets off. I find them a little bit big for the 6mm figures, and in my madness I've decided to take them all off. Next, they're mounted on lollipop sticks and knives and forks, etc., pulling from various outlets around the town. Spray painted black, and then I'll just give them a quick dry brush with some off-white before cutting them up and mounting them as you see here. So I've got 3 ranks of 6 here. Obviously they come in 4s anyway, so I just have to snip one of them into pairs and place them like so. Next I put the base on. For the base I'm using builder's sand, and to adhere it to the base is 50% water and 50% PVA. It's a little bit tricky getting it between the close ranks. Once I've put the sand on, I'll then just put another little dab of PVA just to seal that in. So I just work my way around the block and in between, making sure I can try and cover up all of the base. I'll then paint the base with a bog standard burnt umber, which I'll pick up from a craft shop. Dollop that on using a fairly big brush for the front, sides and rear, and then in between I'll use a finer brush. The reason I do this now is because once I've painted my little men, I don't really want to be putting a big dollop of brown all over them and ruin all my efforts, so I thought it'd be easier doing it this way round. Any sand that isn't covered up with the burnt umber will probably get covered up with a bit of flock later on, but I try and get most of it, especially in between the legs of the little men. So after all of that, here they are, ready to paint. So I start with a mid-range flesh tone for all the faces and hands. Little dollop on each of the faces on the front, and the 2 side figures on the rear and centre ranks, and perhaps even the ones getting in towards the middle. And a few hands on the outside, and all the hands left and right on the front rank. I try and do the front rank and the rear rank and the sides as best as I can, because they're the ones you're actually going to see a little bit of. You can see I'm just dabbing here a little bit of the faces where I think they're going to be seen a little bit more than perhaps they might otherwise. Next it's on to the hats and backpacks and scabbards. I just use a bog standard black from Vallejo for this. The hats will get another dab of black later once I tidy up the cords, but obviously that's yet to come. For the scabbards, only the left hand man of each rank and the rear rank will get painted, but I'll try and do every backpack, reach down as far as I can for the ones in the middle. Next it's a little bit of light brown for musket butts and stocks, and again I only do 3 on the left hand side. And now to start brightening everything up with a bit of white for the trousers. The slings on the back of the muskets, I'll do all of these. And then it's on to the tassels on the sides of the hats. You'll note I'm using a slightly smaller brush for all of this work. Then the real fun part, which I detest to be honest, is doing the cords on the hats themselves. Now I've tried various methods with this, but I've worked out that just putting a little dash or stripe of white across each of the hats at the front, and then I'll go back over this, as I said before, with the black to make that line a bit thinner and look a bit drooped as they were, as opposed to a straight line across. So that's the front done. Just rotate around and do the same on the back. And the final bit of white is a little dab on the right hand shoulder of each figure for one of the straps onto the backpack. So I've got some light forest green for the actual uniforms themselves, jackets, left arms and back part of the coattails in between the backpack and that arm. That's all on the left hand side figures, and I go to town a little bit more on the rear figures, as you can see here. The right arm just to the right hand side of the backpack. And then it's just a case of working my way around the block, like I said, paying attention to the outermost figures more than the inner ones, making sure that the arms on view. Just get a little dab there, and then I start going down into the block itself, painting the top shoulders of the figures with a little dash of green. Nothing too complex about this. If you want to push it, you're not going to be able to see down into the well of those ranks. That said, it's probably important to get at least a little bit of green on the figures inside the block to help with the effect from a few feet away. Now it's back to the black to try and tidy up those cords on the hats. So just a little stripe across the top of the hat. I want to make a little bit of a semicircle effect on that to show that the cord is drooping down a little bit. Just work away gently along each of the ranks, and exactly the same on the rear side of the block, taking out the large white splodges should there be any. I use some gunmetal for the barrels of the muskets, all down the front of each of those, and I do the ones inside the blocks as well. And a quick dab on the top of each of the muskets just to make sure any bare metal or black metal is covered up. The Russian soldiers also have a metal canteen hanging off the back of their knapsack, so that just gets a dab as well. Back to the green for a dab on the front of each of the hats, and that'll be for the plume. And finally it's a splash of light red on the cuffs of each of them, and I do tend to pop down into the ranks for this one. So we've got the left and right hands of pretty much all of them, and then for the tailcoats just a little dab in between the legs and the scabbards and the backpack. So that's all the painting done, and now it's on to the basing. Firstly, a quick dry brush with an off-white to the front and sides of the base. Then it's back to my PVA water mix, a little bit on the front and sides and in between the ranks, with a sprinkle of fine turf flock, which I've got a mixture of dark green, light green and brown. Then a coat of acrylic matte varnish. So here's the end result. I don't think it looks too bad, to be honest. I know I'm not a particularly good painter, but this is good enough at 3 foot for small figures, so I don't spend too much time on it, as you can see. But the beauty of this scale is when you put this chap alongside a few of his mates, and then alongside a few more, and you really start to get that mass effect. Ho hum, only another 50 to go. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I wouldn't say I enjoyed making that little video, because it's a bit of a pain in the arse. But there we are, done it now, and that may be useful to some of you. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.